In the last decade, more than 1 million people in the UK have slipped out of the middle class. That's not a forecast, it's happening right now. And in some cities, the shift is so fast, it's leaving behind empty homes, boarded up businesses, and families forced to make impossible choices just to survive. Let's be honest, when you think of economic collapse, you might imagine a market crash or a major company going bankrupt. But the real crisis? It's happening quietly, in plain sight, street by street. And the scariest part? Most people don't even notice until it's too late. The middle class, the group that once defined security and stability, is vanishing. In this video, we're going city by city across the UK to uncover where this invisible economic landslide is hitting hardest. We'll expose the cities where average earners can no longer afford homes, where stable jobs are disappearing, and where entire neighborhoods are transforming beyond recognition. You'll learn why a decent salary might not protect you anymore, and how rising costs, broken housing markets, and wage stagnation are pushing people out of the middle faster than ever before. So, is your city already on this list? Or could it be next? Backed by solid data and research, what you're about to see is more than surprising. It's urgent. Stick with us till the end. Because this isn't just a list. It's a warning you can't afford to ignore. Number 10. Glasgow. Glasgow, once the steel spine of Scotland's economy, is now in the midst of a quieter but equally dramatic transformation. The slow, steady disappearance of its middle class. This isn't about decline across the board. In fact, Glasgow has poured billions into redevelopment. The skyline glitters with glass offices and luxury flats. But here's the kicker. These sleek upgrades aren't for the people who've called Glasgow home for generations. What's unfolding is a deepening divide. On one side, areas like the West End and Finnieston are buzzing with tech hubs, vegan cafes, and boutique apartments. On the other, neighborhoods like Easterhouse and Postle Park face entrenched poverty and social neglect. And the space between them is widening. For middle-income Glaswegians, life is being squeezed from all directions. Wages have stagnated, but rent, utilities and transportation costs keep climbing. Public services are stretched thin, schools are under-resourced, and healthcare access is patchy in the most affected areas. Meanwhile, long-term rentals are vanishing. Landlords are switching to lucrative short-term lets aimed at tourists, further tightening the housing supply. Families with stable jobs are finding themselves priced out of communities they've lived in for decades. There's also a shift in who the city is being built for. New developments favor luxury living, not affordability. This makes it nearly impossible for mid-level professionals, teachers, nurses, retail managers, to buy or even rent within city limits. Glasgow is changing, but not for everyone. It's becoming a city of extremes, one for the affluent and another for those barely getting by. The middle ground, it's eroding fast, so the question is, in the race for progress, who gets left behind? Stick around as we move on to number 9, a city where beauty, popularity and rising costs are driving a similar story. Number 9. Leeds. Welcome to Leeds, one of the fastest growing cities in the UK, a business powerhouse and a city where the middle class is feeling the pinch harder than ever. At first glance, Leeds appears to be thriving. There's been a boom in high-rise developments, shopping districts, and digital industries. But look closer, and you'll see a troubling pattern. Growth is not being shared equally. For middle-income earners, those in public service, retail management, or mid-level corporate roles, life in Leeds is getting tougher by the month. The problem? Wages aren't keeping pace with the cost of living, and housing is at the heart of the issue. Over the last 5 years, average house prices in Leeds have surged by over 25%. Rent has followed close behind, and for many families, this means one thing: compromise. They're moving further out of the city, taking on longer commutes and sacrificing quality of life just to afford basic housing. Even those who manage to stay in the city centre face shrinking disposable income. Energy costs, council tax, and childcare expenses are gobbling up paychecks, leaving little room for saving, investing, or enjoying life. Meanwhile, gentrification is taking root. Traditional working and middle-class neighborhoods are being redeveloped into luxury flats and chic cafes that cater to a different demographic, often excluding the very people who built the city's culture. And it's not just about money, it's about identity. Leeds is becoming unrecognizable for many who've lived there for decades. What do you think? Are these changes making Leeds better or worse? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more deep dives like this. We've still got 8 more cities to uncover, and some of them might surprise you. Number 8. Edinburgh. Step into Edinburgh and it's easy to get distracted by the beauty. Cobbled streets, historic landmarks, and a skyline dominated by a castle. It feels timeless. But beneath the postcard-perfect surface, something unsettling is unfolding. Edinburgh is becoming a city that people love to visit, but can no longer afford to live in. Tourism here is booming. Festivals, conferences, and year-round attractions draw millions every year. And with that influx comes money, lots of it. But also a problem: short-term rentals are eating up the housing supply. Entire blocks that once housed working and middle-class families are now Airbnbs. This shift is pricing out locals at an alarming rate. Teachers, social workers, and NHS staff, people essential to the city's function, are struggling to find homes within commuting distance. Rent inflation, pushed by investor landlords, is breaking budgets. And it's not just about rent. Daily life is getting expensive. Groceries, transport, council tax, it all adds up. Middle-income earners are increasingly forced to choose between staying in the city they love or relocating to more affordable but distant suburbs. Even more troubling is the cultural shift. Long-standing communities are fragmenting. Local shops are replaced by chain cafes, and neighbors become strangers as long-term residents move out. The middle class here isn't just being squeezed, it's being displaced, quietly, gradually, and systematically. And it raises the question, who is Edinburgh really for? The people who keep it running, or the people just passing through? As we continue down the list, the pattern becomes clearer and more alarming. Let's head to the next city, where the charm of coastal living hides an equally serious problem. Number 7. Brighton. Brighton, quirky, colourful, and endlessly cool. It's the place people escape to for seaside vibes, indie shops, and a breath of fresh, salt-laced air. But for the middle class trying to live here, Brighton is anything but a breeze. Let's start with the obvious: housing. Brighton has one of the most expensive property markets outside of London. And while that might not shock you, what's alarming is how it's affecting families who used to comfortably call the city home. Middle-income earners, nurses, teachers, freelance creatives, are being boxed out. The demand for homes is sky-high, but the supply, severely limited. Investors are snapping up properties for holiday lets and second homes, pushing prices into the stratosphere and leaving residents scrambling for affordable options. The ripple effects go deeper. Renters are facing brutal competition. Even modest one-bed flats attract dozens of applicants. For families, that means paying more for less, or relocating entirely. And it's not just about housing. Everyday costs in Brighton are climbing too: transport, groceries, childcare, council tax. For many middle-class families, living in Brighton now means budgeting down to the penny. What makes this more disheartening is Brighton's identity. It was once a haven for the alternative and the artistic. But as costs rise and wealthy newcomers move in, that culture is being diluted. The city's vibrant charm remains, but who can afford to enjoy it? Brighton is no longer just a destination, it's a battleground. between lifestyle dreams and economic realities. And the people losing are often the ones who made Brighton what it is in the first place. Let's move on to number 6, where academia, innovation and investment are reshaping a city's soul. Number 6. Cambridge. Cambridge, home to one of the most prestigious universities in the world, a hub of innovation and a magnet for global talent. But beneath the accolades and academic prestige lies a growing tension. Cambridge is becoming unlivable for the very people who keep it running. The issue isn't lack of success, it's too much of it, too fast. The tech boom, driven by biotech and AI companies clustered around the so-called Silicon Fen, has flooded the city with investment. But this economic surge has done little to help the city's middle class. Instead, it's inflated housing prices beyond reason. Average homes now cost more than 12 times the average salary. For a city of under 150,000 people, that kind of pressure is devastating. Key workers, teachers, police officers, junior doctors, are increasingly commuting from distant towns, spending hours each day just to make ends meet. Those who stay sacrifice space, quality, and in many cases, mental well-being. Local culture is fading too. Independent shops, quirky cafes, and old-school pubs are being replaced by upscale boutiques and chain restaurants catering to affluent newcomers. What makes Cambridge's situation unique is its paradox. It's a city built on knowledge, science, and human capital. Yet the very humans it needs most are the ones being squeezed out. Add in traffic congestion, unaffordable childcare, and a dwindling rental market, and you've got a pressure cooker environment that's quietly pushing the middle class out of the equation. Cambridge may be excelling on paper, but real life tells a different story. One where progress comes at a price not everyone can afford to pay. Next up, a city famous for academia and tradition, where the cost of legacy is becoming too heavy to bear. Number 5. Oxford. Oxford, the city of dreaming spires, where scholars have walked the cobbled streets for over 900 years. It's a place of history, intellect, and inspiration. But today, Oxford is also a city where the middle class is quietly being priced out of the present. Behind the postcard image of Gothic architecture and academic prestige lies a severe housing crisis. Oxford regularly ranks as one of the least affordable cities in the UK when you compare average wages to average house prices. For many middle-income families, that ratio has become unbearable. Living in Oxford used to mean you were part of a vibrant, culturally rich and intellectually diverse community. Now, it means navigating sky-high rents, relentless traffic, and the creeping sense that this city is no longer meant for you. The university and its surrounding research parks have brought in billions, but little of that wealth trickles down to the people working in schools, hospitals, or local businesses. Junior academics, civil servants, and small business owners find themselves living in cramped flats or commuting from distant towns just to afford life on an Oxford salary. Meanwhile, developers target luxury housing, often leaving affordable projects on the back burner. The result? A squeeze on supply, surging prices, and a shrinking middle. Cultural spaces are fading too. Bookshops, cafes, and community centres struggle to survive in a city increasingly defined by exclusivity. Oxford might still symbolise academic excellence, but for the average family trying to build a life here, it's less about opportunity and more about survival. And that brings us to number 4, a city where charm meets challenge, and the middle class is being edged out by its own success. Number 4. Bristol. Bristol, creative, vibrant, and fiercely independent. It's a city that marches to the beat of its own drum, where art meets activism and old docks now pulse with innovation. But beneath the surface of this cool, progressive city lies a reality that's getting harder to ignore. Bristol is pushing out its middle class. In recent years, Bristol has become one of the most desirable cities to live in the UK, Its blend of culture, tech, and lifestyle has attracted thousands from across the country. But popularity comes at a price, and that price is now unaffordable for many who call the city home. House prices have surged by over 30% in the last 5 years, outpacing wage growth significantly. Rent is no better. Families are now paying London-level prices without the same level of salaries or infrastructure. Middle-income earners, once the lifeblood of Bristol's community, teachers, artists, local entrepreneurs, are being priced out. They're forced to the outskirts or beyond, where commutes are longer, schools are under pressure, and the connection to the city fades. And then there's gentrification. Neighbourhoods like Stokes Croft and Easton, once gritty and authentic, are transforming fast. While new cafes and co-working spaces move in, long-standing residents and local businesses move out. Even the city's celebrated culture is under threat. Rising commercial rents and a lack of affordable space are pushing out artists, musicians, and independent venues. Ironic in a city known for its creative spirit. Bristol's energy remains magnetic, but its accessibility? That's fading fast. Next, we're heading to a city where a decline in industry and a rise in living costs are colliding head-on, leaving the middle class in the dust. Number 3. Birmingham. Birmingham, the beating heart of the Midlands, once known as the workshop of the world. With its proud industrial roots and cultural diversity, it's long been a city of opportunity. But today, Birmingham's middle class is being pushed into a financial corner, with fewer and fewer ways out. Let's talk about jobs. The decline of traditional manufacturing has left a gap that service industries haven't filled. Sure, there are roles in retail, hospitality, and call centers, but they rarely offer the stability or pay that once defined middle-class life here. Pair that with rising costs of transport, utilities, and housing, and the pressure builds fast. Birmingham was once affordable, not anymore. A surge in demand has driven up housing prices, while public transport fares keep climbing. For many, getting to work is now a daily expense they struggle to justify. And while shiny regeneration projects are transforming parts of the city centre, the benefits aren't reaching everyone. Fancy shopping malls and high-rise flats cater to outsiders and investors, not to the local communities who need support the most. Middle-income families are caught in the middle, not wealthy enough to access new housing, not struggling enough to qualify for help. And with schools facing funding cuts and healthcare waiting lists growing, even essential services are starting to strain. Birmingham's story isn't one of collapse, it's a slow exclusion. An erosion of the things that once made a solid life possible: a good job, a decent home, a strong community. And as more families feel the squeeze, the question becomes, who is Birmingham being rebuilt for? Next, we turn to a city once defined by reinvention, now struggling with the cost of its own revival. Number 2. Manchester. Manchester, the city of reinvention. From its industrial roots to its modern skyline, Manchester has always embraced change. But in its latest transformation, fueled by tech, media, and investment, something's being left behind: the middle class. At first glance, it's all success. Cranes dot the skyline, glass towers climb higher each month, and global companies set up shop in gleaming offices. But the prosperity isn't trickling down, it's pushing people out. Housing costs have skyrocketed. The city centre, once home to affordable flats and local shops, now resembles a luxury district. Developers are focused on high-end rentals and premium condos, not homes for everyday earners. Middle-income families, nurses, engineers, council workers are being forced further and further out into suburbs where prices are also rising. Commutes are longer, public transport is overstretched, and the quality of life is slipping. Then there's gentrification. Neighborhoods like Ancoats and the Northern Quarter, once gritty and full of character, are now filled with artisan bakeries and co-working spaces. Trendy, yes. Accessible to most locals? Not so much. Even within the job market, the divide is growing. The tech and digital sectors pay well, but they're not hiring en masse. Meanwhile, the bulk of jobs created are in lower-paid service roles, offering little in the way of advancement or security. Manchester's revival has created a tale of two cities, one rising high in the glossy pages of real estate brochures, and one where middle-income earners feel increasingly out of place in their own hometown. As the city races toward the future, its middle class is being left behind, quietly but unmistakably. And that brings us to number one, the capital city, where the cost of ambition is crushing an entire economic class. Number one, London. A city of ambition, diversity, and global prestige. It's where dreams are chased, fortunes made, and trends born. But for the middle class, it's a city that now feels like a fortress, expensive to enter, harder to stay in, and nearly impossible to thrive in. The numbers speak for themselves. London's average house price is nearly 9 times the average UK salary. For a middle-income earner, owning a home here feels less like a goal and more like a fantasy. Even renting isn't a safe bet. Rents have soared to record highs, with bidding wars now common for basic flats. But the real story goes deeper. The city's economy is polarized. On one end, high earners in finance and tech reap massive rewards. On the other, a growing army of low-paid workers struggle to get by. In between, the middle is getting crushed. Living in London today means sacrificing space, time, and often your mental health. Commutes are long, childcare is unaffordable, and groceries cost more than anywhere else in the country. You can earn well and still feel broke. Even neighborhoods once considered solidly middle class, like Walthamstow or Peckham, are transforming. Chain stores replace local businesses, and investors snap up housing before families even get a chance. What's most alarming is the pace. The middle class isn't just struggling, it's disappearing fast. Teachers, police officers, junior doctors, they're either moving out or burning out. London may still be the crown jewel of the UK, but it's one that's become too heavy to wear. The lights are still bright, the skyline's still stunning, but for millions of everyday people, it no longer feels like home. And with that, our countdown comes to a close. But the conversation is just beginning. And there you have it, 10 cities, one vanishing middle class, and a future that's shifting fast. Have thoughts about your own city? Drop them in the comments, we read every single one. If this video opened your eyes, our last one dives even deeper into the housing crisis. Go check it out next. We pour countless hours into bringing you stories that matter, so if you found this valuable, support us with just